Losing two brothers to the streets in Mount Vernon definitely impacted my life, because you don't want other kids to fall into that realm. There's so many people that's doing good work in Mount Vernon and is not a celebrity. I mean, I look at the firemen here and the police officers, that's good work, you know, and they don't get paid the most, but their passion for the city keeps them going.
It pains me when I talk with people and they refer to Mount Vernon as kind of the bottom rung in Westchester County.
I deeply believe that the press is unfair to Mount Vernon, extremely unfair to Mount Vernon. Mount Vernon is a wonderful town.
People don't feel that positive about Mount Vernon, in particular the high school.
The challenge with Mount Vernon right now really has to do with its acceleration of its urbanization. It's trying to urbanize. And we have to recapture our suburban past.
At the time of my growing up, the town itself was no more than 65,000 people, but it was predominantly Italian.
It was a suburban community close to the city.
There was a small percentage of African Americans, a small percentage of Jewish population, and but everybody got along.
There was a lot of respect for the elders. There was a lot of respect for education and achievement.
We had very well stocked playgrounds. We had ball games. We had all kinds of activities.
There was a real sense of community. We looked out for one another. We hung out together.
We knew our Sunday school teachers from our church. They didn't live in the Bronx or in Yonkers or someplace. They lived in Mount Vernon.
When you saw Miss Johnson or Miss whoever coming up the street, even if you was doing something disrespectful, you stopped, you would say, "Shut up, there go Miss So-and-so," and you speak, "How you doing, Miss Smith?" or "Miss So-and-so," and they'd speak to you.
I am a product of Leverster Towers, so I was raised in the projects, as we call it here in Mount Vernon. But the projects was full of families, hardworking, veterans and just hardworking families, but it was deeply a community.
If you were doing something that was wrong and one of the neighbors' parents saw you, they would not hesitate to tell you, you know your mother or your father doesn't want to know about this, so you need to stop it.
It wasn't your children, it was our children, and there was a sense of belonging.
You really learn to appreciate that, the value of a community.
When we attended the high school, it was one of the premier high schools in Mount Vernon. It had all the academics, business, commercial arts, vocational facilities and training that you could expect at any other school in Westchester. So I was proud to be a graduate of Mount Vernon High School. I felt that it prepared me well to go on to college and on with the rest of my life.
Education was important. There was structure, very little violence, if any. So of course we fought like all children do, but there weren't guns. There wasn't a lot of foul language. There weren't murders. We never thought about murdering anybody.
We also had an institution that was very instrumental in the upraising of our community. It's called the Boys and Girls Club. Actually, it was called the Boys Club back in those days.
They had a very, very, very powerful impact on my character. It was an institution that was great for the city of Mount Vernon.
A lot of basketball, after-school programming, but my family, we were really into the music side at a very early age, so we ended up doing the after-hour stuff.
It was so structured. There were times, age groups you had to be in. You couldn't wear your hat. You couldn't use foul language. And those role models, and the Joe Colemans, and Billy Thomas, and Mr. Tuitt, those gentlemen, they left such strong impressions on you, on what it meant to be successful.
Now Mount Vernon is in every way an urban community, bringing with it all of its urban issues, urban problems.
We have fractured families, we have high incidence of pregnancies in young women.
We have young men who are fathering children that they don't care about and don't take care of and don't take responsibility for.
It's hard to get business people really to come in and to stay and to spend their money here.
So we have to look at the genesis of why we are where we are.
I sincerely believe that at the heart of the present challenge is deeply rooted in present culture.
The music of the day has influenced the mood of our young adults.
They seem to have a different mindset with regard to rebellion, standing against institutional structure. There's a degeneration in their thought concerning academics and education and how important it is getting through high school.
Somehow we as parents and as responsible guardians and leaders have fallen down in terms of accepting a standard of family values that are very different. We don't hold our children responsible and accountable for their behavior. We're almost afraid of our children. So in that process, we have let them just kind of take over and be in control.
This is not just a Mount Vernon problem. This is a countrywide urban problem that we need to learn how to address and deal with these youth.
So we have to go back to the issues of ethics, values, principles, right, wrong. Somehow or another that's been painted gray.
There's a need to bridge some of the gaps between what is available from the city of Mount Vernon and what is being utilized by the citizens of Mount Vernon.
It's incredible how much support this city gives. But without the parents making sure these children are enrolled in these programs, nothing's going to happen.
A lot of people have a tendency to stay in their house and not get involved because they just don't know the avenue how to get involved.
Many of us have not come together and said we have common goals and we really need to put our politics to the side and try to figure out what's the mainstream concern that we have and how do we begin to correct it.
I see Mount Vernon headed in the right direction right now. I believe that there's young leadership coming in. I believe that a lot of community organizations are a little bit tired of the norm.
What we want to do is master plan Mount Vernon to succeed.
I would like to see the citizens of Mount Vernon embrace that, yes, we may have different backgrounds, but we should be moving towards a common future.
You have to find different solutions to deal with the times that we're in.
It's going to take a rebuilding, a rebirth, and a reaffirmation before we can see that turn itself around.
And that involves fulfilling a sense of community, that we may bring different things to the table, but they should all be on the table.
If we're gonna get to the next level, it's not one individual, it's not the city officials. People have to want to help people to make this city all it can be.
You have to show that you care for people.
If you invest in people, regardless of who they are, what they've done, where they've been, you're gonna make an investment to make your community better.
We don't just reach out and touch, we embrace. And we do make a difference in the lives of many people.
I think the same thing that happened in Harlem eventually will happen here.
It's a joint effort between the family, the individuals in the family, and whatever other entities may be providing other guidance, such as the church, the city government, the school. And if we're able to do that, then Mount Vernon will continue to be a wonderful place to live and raise a family.
The city is ready for 21st century growth.
My brother, Heavy, used to always say, Floyd, come on out to LA. I'm like, man, that's just too far. And I had an opportunity to move to Washington, D.C., and I was like, that's too far. And then my brother asked me again, Floyd, come out to LA, there's jobs and everything. I'm like, it's too far. He finally said, too far from where? I was like, it's too far from Mount Vernon, you know? This is home, this is where I know everybody, everybody knows me, everybody knows each other, and that's it's a special asset to have in a community.